Back in for another episode of the Vegas Therapist. I'm your host, Ryan Winder, and a little bit sooner than anticipated, but I thought, hey, let's do a special episode on what everybody's dealing with, coronavirus. It's out there, it's everywhere to some level, I guess, or it's impacting everywhere, at least this week. So anyway, before we get to that though, hope everybody enjoyed last week's episode with Tracy and her story and just sharing that with us about being at the Route 91 concert. It's just a horrific incident that happened here in Las Vegas. So anyway, it was great to have her. Welcome everybody. It's good to have you back in for another episode of the Vegas Therapist. I am your host, Ryan Winder, and I am coming to you live today from my office. Where else? I'm working. Coronavirus and all, I'm still at work, still punching the clock and trying to help people get through this difficult time. Just wanted to say thanks for everybody that listened to last week's episode. It was a great episode if you had a chance to hear it. Tracy was an amazing guest, and just listening to her story was unbelievable about how she endured such a horrific trauma of the mass shooting here in Las Vegas. And if anybody's experienced any kind of difficult trauma, it's definitely well worth your listen. So again, we are in the month of March. I know it seems like it's the longest month ever, really the longest year ever. 2020 is only 3.5 months in, or I don't know, January, February, not even like 2.5 months in, and it's already feels like an entire year with everything that's gone on and things that have happened. So anyway, but we are in March. We are celebrating the 1 year anniversary of the podcast, and we are giving away some great prizes. All you have to do again is either rate and review the podcast on iTunes, or also you could go onto Facebook or Instagram and share your favorite episode and just tag me in it so that I know that you've done that. And I will enter you into the contest to win a 60-minute consultation with me, $75 US gift card, and a $50 US gift card are the three prizes that we're giving away for the year anniversary celebration. You have till the end of March to do that. So get those in, share the podcast, get it out to everybody. There's a lot of great information out there in the podcast. And again, just share it doesn't have to be this week's episode. It can be episode 23. It can be episode 5. Just whatever your favorite episode is, just share it and tag me in it so I can enter your name. All right. Well, to get to today's episode, Corona. That's kind of it's like wherever you go, that's what we're talking about. That's what I'm talking about with people and kind of how they're dealing with it. But definitely seems like what was so maybe far away a few months ago, it's now hitting us in the face in a very significant way. And I think even for us, like what other countries' problem is now our reality. And obviously it's been building the last few weeks, and definitely the escalation of it here in Vegas was felt the last couple days as the governor ordered a shutdown to everything in the the Strip and all the casinos and hotels and everything like that. So it's hard to know what the effect of that will be. I know my work week's been fairly consistent. I've had some cancellations, people not feeling well, people kind of just wanted to take a time out, and whether it's practice social distancing or just be safer. I am offering video sessions to clients that don't want to come in, but again, it's just something that people are doing, but still been fairly busy. But anyway, but just like I was saying before, we've kind of moved from this thing of what could be to what is, and what is something that we've not, I guess what is really something that we haven't seen before. Kind of the feeling of being in uncharted territory. obviously not only for us, but those in charge, those who are kind of running the country. Obviously, it's something different for them. So I think we should be mindful of those in charge that are trying to learn from other countries that have been impacted before us. So maybe what we see as being radical and over the top, maybe just what is necessary in order to not let this pandemic worsen. I mean, it's really hard to say because, a lot of us don't maybe really fully understand it. Maybe we don't really have the gravity of it. Maybe we don't even know anybody that's impacted by it or been affected by it. So we haven't really seen it take its effect, or maybe we do. That's the whole weird variable of all this, is like how they say, some people may have it, not ever know it. Some people's symptoms are more mild, some symptoms are more extreme. So who knows, right? That's the big sort of problem with all this. It's hard to know exactly what all we're dealing with. But I think one of the things that we've definitely had to deal with is just recognizing that, we've had to allow kind of what our will is and our ego to shift from what maybe I want to what is needed for myself and for others. And then also just what actions can I take to ensure that this virus or pandemic is rectified sooner rather than later. I mean, and that's to me is the hope and the reason I think for all of this stuff is just that this can be something of the past and we can get through it and we can get back to normal life and move on. Obviously, each of us do play a role in this process, and we can do our part to make sure that we move through this as seamlessly as possible. Again, just as maybe as simple as it seems, just by following the guidelines, good hand washing, good hygiene, doing the social distancing thing, trying to be as clean as possible as far as just taking care of our stuff and doing what we can to make sure we're not passing this along. I did see a post. So basically kind of what I wanted to do today is just kind of talk about just some different principles I think that can help us to look at this in a better way and maybe help us get through it and obviously just even have a conversation about it or just to talk about it because it is such a big thing that most of us are, I think all of us are being impacted by at this point. So whether again we've been hit with the disease or just maybe our job's on hold or we're not working or whatever it may be. But I saw a post earlier in the week on Instagram that said the word fear has two meanings. First one is to forget everything and run, or the second one is to face everything and rise, but the choice is ours. And I don't know how much running we can do at this point, being isolated and kind of like forced to kind of stay where we are. It's hard to basically go to anywhere else. So I think the real reality of the fear is, are we going to kind of face this thing and deal with it and try to be, mindful of what we can do to learn from it, grow from it, understand ourselves maybe better from it, and so on and so forth. I mean, I think that's the biggest thing is that we do have an opportunity to grow, change, and decide who we're going to be in a time of uncertainty and crisis. With every obstacle that we face is an opportunity to improve our condition. And I think those are some of the principles that we need to kind of focus on is that, how can I improve my condition or myself, people around me, my family, with this obstacle that we're now facing? Because that's kind of, to me, is like all we can focus on is how we can kind of grow, because there's a lot of unknowns. There's a lot of things we can't control. There's a lot of things that are just kind of being thrown at us. And so we have to figure out a way how to, make the best of it. And I think speaking of obstacles, obstacles, not only are they challenges, but they can make us emotional. But really the only way that we can survive or overcome them is by keeping those emotions in check. Keeping those emotions in check. Just let that sit in for a second and think about what we've seen over the last few weeks with people panicking and running to grocery stores and buying out the supplies and I mean, I think some of that's been based on a lack of information. I mean, even when you hear the word shutdown, it's like it's not like we can't still leave and go to the store. Just there's stricter rules in place, so they're starting to limit how many people they let in stores and stuff like that. But it's like this whole panic and fear and letting our emotions get the best of us, and gun stores are being bought out, ammo's being bought out, water and toilet paper and all these things just wiped out. And there's just a lot of emotions that are overrunning us, and they're basically guiding everything that we do. So although there's a place for our emotions for sure, I still think keeping them in check and being able to manage them in crisis is a skill that really has to be cultivated. And if we don't work at it, those things will just kind of take over. There's a book called The Gift of Fear, and in that book, the author asks the question. He says, when you worry, ask yourself, what am I choosing to not see right now? What important things am I missing because I'm choosing to worry over having introspection, alertness, or wisdom? So, a lot of times our emotions cause us to worry and panic, and then we lose sight of some important things that we could do to maybe see through that, such as having some better introspection, some better awareness of things. So really it comes down to does getting upset or panicking provide us with better options? And again, some people might say yes, it does, but it's hard to say. Like it kind of almost causes more problems when so many people act in a way that's upsetting or panicking or whatever. Obviously it's caused shortage of toilet paper and things like that, that maybe really haven't needed to be there, but those things have happened. So does getting upset provide us with other options, or is it just again making things a little bit more complicated and worse? Calming our emotions and going through the obstacle obviously make it more likely to benefit us rather than become something that is more problematic, which is kind of what I just reiterated. So keeping that in mind, I think one thing about this situation is so unique because it's not like anything that we've ever experienced before, and there's not even really much to compare it to. So I think that's where, again, a lot of times we get freaked out, is that there's no source of, okay, what, I haven't seen this before, I don't know what to expect. I mean, there's still like a lot of unknowns. How long is this going to last? How long are we going to be in quarantine? How long are people, how long are things going to be shut down, et cetera, et cetera. In fact, when I was thinking about this and thinking about this episode, it might even be good for people to go back and listen to episode 22, which is dealing with uncertainty and vulnerability, the do's and don'ts, and how to manage it in our lives. So I think that's a great episode for right now because of just what it provides. We are obviously dealing with a lot of uncertainty and unknowns and feeling very vulnerable to things that are happening, and what could go wrong, what could we end up losing, or even the idea of, again, getting sick and what that could do. There's a lot of uncertainty with those things too. But okay, so I want to move on to a quote that I found earlier, and I actually shared this quote with people on Facebook this last week in a little blurb I did, and it basically says the disruption caused by the coronavirus is going to be a formative part of our children's ability to cope with upheaval, disappointment, change. They will learn from seeing how parents and others react. So just a lot of things in there that are that create an opportunity for us to help guide, mold, and teach those around us, and in particular our kids. There's so many life lessons that can be given, things again revolving around change, disappointment, but also even things like delayed gratification. Hey, we can't do that right now. Maybe we can't spend the money on that. We need to save. We need to be mindful. things of that nature. So lots of things to where maybe again our kids were expecting something. Maybe they were expecting to go on a spring break trip. Now they can't do that. Now we can't travel. Now we can't, have this thing or whatever it might be. And so, um, you know, yeah, just having to deal with some of those disappointments and loss and trying to help them through that in a positive way so that they can incorporate that into their way of being. And so later on in life, they have those tools to work through it. I saw this segment on SportsCenter the other night where they're honoring seniors in high school who didn't get a last chance to compete in their sports. Some of their stories are amazing, especially with what the kids and coaches have done to make this difficult time more manageable. And I know there's a lot of that out there. There's a lot of kids who've had that chance or opportunity to compete taken from them. My home area of Southern Alberta, they're big on basketball. They love basketball. And their zone playoffs and provincial playoffs were canceled, and that was a huge thing for them, especially the teams that were competitive and were ranked highly, and now didn't get a chance to have and to play for those titles that they've worked so hard to do, and just now it's gone, and you can't get that back, especially those who are seniors and those who this was their last year. So again, a lot of disappointment, a lot of negative maybe feelings that have to be worked through, but can be great life lessons if we help guide our kids through those things. And I think we can all do a better job at those types of things. It's great to see people putting their best foot forward in times of crisis, and doing things in a way that show there's kindness out there, there's good people, there's people willing to make sacrifices and do different things to benefit the greater good. Something else I touched on earlier this week in my Facebook post was just even like the notion of gratitude and expressing gratitude and teaching our kids or how to cultivate gratitude in our kids, especially at this time. My daughter was like missing school or wishing she could be at school, and and just things like that, things that maybe we've taken for granted, things that now we can't have or don't have or can't do, that maybe now we have a greater sense of appreciation for, gratitude. I think it's important for us as parents to point those things out, to help our kids recognize those things and develop, again, a sense of gratitude with them. And again, that's something that we can use this for as we go through it and as we walk our kids through it as well. Another important principle to remember during this time is the notion of psychological reactance. It's a big word that we can say. Psychological reactance. In a sense, psychological reactance is the instantaneous reaction to saying no. So it's the negative reaction when we are being told what to do. And we all have it. We all kind of get that notion of like, oh, you're going to tell me to stay inside? I'm going to go outside. You're going to tell me that I can't be around people? I'm going to be around people. You're going to tell me that I can't go to work? I'm going to go to work. Or you're going to tell me that, and it's like, we battle that all the time. And, right now, that might be bigger for some of us, to where, we don't want to listen to the government. We don't want to listen to what we're told, what we're doing, or being told what to do. We may think that this is a bunch of BS, it's political, it's whatever. And so we find all these reasons, or our brain finds all these reasons to resist and to kind of push it away. This is also kind of referred to as change resistance, or in childhood years, the terrible twos, where the 2-year-old's just going to do whatever they want to do and not what they're told. So that can be, problematic, I guess, in some sense, is that right now we kind of have to, learn to work through that, because ultimately we're in a place where you have to accept things that we're being told to do. Some of us will accept that more so. Some of us will not. Some of us have learned how to tame that psychological reactance, over time and be better with it. Um, whereas others just go and rebel and go against whatever they're being told, and they are going to take on whatever risk that there may be with that. But they're not going to be told what to do, and they're not going to have this forced upon them. And so they resist and they continue to resist. I see people, and some of it might be in fun, but they're poking fun of social distancing and things of that nature. And I guess, we'll see how that turns out. We'll see if if it's something that blows up on them, or if it's just, hey, they got lucky and nothing happened. But I know for me today, I had supervision with my group of supervisees, and and so then there was like 5 of us in the room, and we were fairly spread apart or whatever, but one of my supervisees kept trying to discreetly wipe her nose with a Kleenex, and I gotta tell you, it freaked me out a little bit. It made me want to have social distancing from that person and from a lot of people, and so, I mean, when she left, I was like, one of our other therapists had some bleach disinfected, or some spray, Lysol spray, whatever, I don't know, something. And I just sprayed the heck out of my couch and, wiped it down. And so yeah, I mean, it's one of those things where maybe we think we're good, or we think it's not a big deal, but then all of a sudden something like that's in front of us, and it's like, maybe I don't want to have that person around me. Maybe I want this social distancing and things to be in place. So again, it's just something that I guess we'll see what happens, over the course of time with people and with the way that we're doing things, to see how much that really impacts us. So something else that I was thinking about was that, there's this principle out there that some of us have heard of, but we maybe don't pay much attention to. It's actually the principle of adversarial growth. And if you haven't ever heard of adversarial growth, or you probably have, but in some sense, it's really the thing that it's the idea that which doesn't kill you makes you stronger. And that actually is not just a cliche, but it's actually a fact. So that which doesn't kill us will make us stronger is something that, again, we can take that into consideration, and hopefully, we do that, and hopefully, we can grow from this and be better, and that it's not something that, well, first of all, hopefully it doesn't really kill us. And the second thing is that hopefully it does make us stronger. It's something that we can look back on and see that was, a great opportunity for learning, a great opportunity for coming together, a great opportunity for us to improve on the things that we want to improve on in life. Again, teach principles to those around us, and I think that we can. For me, I think we can and will be stronger for having gone through this, and I think it's just a matter of us deciding today that we're going to make the best of this in our lives. And if we do that and we make that conscious decision to make this into a positive thing, and to rise from this, and to turn it into something positive, that that's what it will be. And hopefully we'll look back on it and be able to not see it as something that was such a painful thing, or something that we look on with dread, but it's just like, hey, it was this weird moment in history where people had to self-contain and isolate and social distance, and all those terms will just be something that we kind of can look back on and just say, man, that was a crazy time, but I gained so much from it, or learned from it, or I really got a better perspective on life, and I started looking at life much differently, and that can be a good thing. So anyway, so I just wanted to touch on a few of those points, and hopefully we can make that commitment to accept what is, and to just make the most of it, and hopefully we can come together and stay connected to the ones that we love, and do what we can to be more mindful of each other, and look out for those that might be less fortunate, more in need. Look out for the elderly, the people that are more scared, more worried about this thing, and just kind of be a helping hand and a kind person. And it's just something that I think will be good for us. And so anyway, this is the Vegas Therapist, and just bringing you hopefully some peace and some ways to think about this difficult time in a more healthy and constructive way. So I hope you apply some of those things and really make an effort to use this as a tool for learning and for growth, rather than for negativity and, I guess, psychological reactance, where we just rebel and don't really care about what's going on around us. So all right, well, again, month of March, go rate and review the show, get entered into the contest to win some great prizes, and then also take the opportunity to share your favorite episode on Facebook and Instagram, and you can get entered that way as well. And we will be in touch, and more episodes to come this month for you. And this is me signing out.